Hey everyone, my name is Rooster and welcome back to Mechabellum. In today's video I want to talk about the VORTEX, the new unit that was just added to the public test server and that will be in the game next week at the start of the new season. Now I'll try and go through its stats, its techs very quickly here at the start of the video, so try and keep up as I want to showcase an actual game that was played. A little bit of a disclaimer, it is of course the test server, so anything you see here is subject to change. So if anything seems too powerful or too weak, it will likely get changed before it actually goes onto, the live servers. That's what this test server is all about. So the VORTEX, a new medium mech at 100 cost. Important to note is that it won't be in your starter packs, you will have to buy it yourself. What does it do? Well, it's meant to destroy medium units at mid-range. Things like hounds and void eyes, but even sledgehammers, and in its current state, sometimes bigger units as well, if you are willing to invest in it. Its HP is at 7,000, which is rather high. Something like an Arclight, which is also a 100 cost single unit, has just under 5,000, so it is rather beefy. Its speed is 8 meters a second, its attack 1200 with an attack interval of 1.3. That means its DPS is higher than a full pack of level 1 void eyes, and in fact it's very comparable to a single level 1 Phoenix, which for 100 cost is rather unheard of. And yeah, it's definitely capable of dishing out a bunch of damage. Splash is 0, so it can only hit a single unit at a time, and its range is 85 and can only hit ground. 85 meters, very comparable to something like a Tarantula, which has 80 meters. As for its techs, range enhancement is rather self-explanatory. Mobile Power Station is a new tech, increases attack of ground-friendly units within 100 meters by 20%, and this does not stack. This is basically the attack boost version of Scanning Radar, which you would find on Farseer. Is it good in its current state? No, I don't think so. Very similar to Scanning Radar, it just doesn't buff enough, and this unit has a bunch of other techs right now which are rather good. So I don't expect this to see any play unless, of course, it gets changed quite drastically before the release. There's also Electromagnetic Cloud. Attacks inflict electromagnetic interference on the target and enemies within a 10-meter radius. So it's the first effect in the game that has a splash EMP effect. I'm not the biggest fan of this. It is rather expensive. I haven't seen it being played that much on test server because other techs, as you will see, are better. But I feel like we don't need more EMP in the game. I think we already have enough of it. And a tech like this, if it ever gets buffed, might at some point, get a tipping point where it becomes very, very annoying. But we'll have to see. Electromagnetic Twin. This is a pretty cool tech. At the start of the battle, spawns a level 1 Vortex Mirage behind itself. The Mirage has 1 HP and 50% of a standard Vortex's attack. So it basically spawns a little clone right behind itself, and this clone benefits from all of the same techs, the same buffs as the real Vortex does. And this becomes important with another tech that I'll get to very shortly. Accumulator Shield. Accumulates energy while attacking. Every 13 attacks deploys a 40-meter radius energy shield at the current location. The shield has a base HP of 3k, and this increases by 3k every level. I haven't really seen this being played too much, but it can be powerful. Barriers always have seen play within Mechabellum, so it could very well be that if some other techs get nerfed or this gets buffed, it suddenly becomes extremely powerful. Think of something like, a Typhoon Barrier, which does see play whenever people decide to go for Typhoon. Grid integration. This is the interesting thing I wanted to talk about, especially, right, if you remember Electromagnetic Twin. Links with other vortexes within 45 meters, increases attack by 15% for each additional linked unit. This stacks. So you can basically build a line of vortexes, have them spawn twins, and all of the twins will also add to the damage of this unit. And this is something that I will showcase in my game. It gets completely crazy in terms of the amount of damage you'll be able to dish out. Finally, there is Emergency Armor. When the HP first falls below 50%, activates Emergency Armor, resisting all damage and becoming untargetable for 2 seconds. This will not trigger if the unit gets one shot. Kind of an interesting one. I haven't seen it being played because the tech bar that most people have been running so far is Range Enhancement, Electromagnetic Twin, Electromagnetic Cloud, and grid integration, with the main idea being to go grid integration into range, into electromagnetic twin, or, you know, at least grid integration into twin into range, whatever, you know, you feel like you need. But yeah, like a full DPS carry build. Anyway, enough talking, enough theory crafting. Let's get into a game that I played on the test server yesterday and showcase what this unit can do. All right, and here we are. The game in question up against Narita Taishin, who's also a pretty high rated player on the live server. So it's not like there's a big MMR gap here. And yeah, as you can see, there are no vortexes in the starter packs. I think there is a good reason for this, because it has some very good matchups into things like Hound, into things like even Sledgehammer and Void Eye. So if you were to get 3 of them at the start, it could get very oppressive. So it is a good idea, I think, that they haven't included them. I decided to go for the Spider opener here. My opponent starts with Ball Hound, which is a relatively popular pack in the current meta, and I think it definitely showcases, you know, a situation where you would want to try and play Vortex, because it is meant to counter these type of mid-sized units. I immediately have the Chaffclear, which is something you will want to have, you know, aside your Vortexes, because they're not really able to Chaffclear that well themselves. And in this case, I'm a speed specialist, and my opponent is a marksman specialist. So here we go. I decided to set up on the left side. Right side, we have the wall, which I didn't really want to push into, and I wanted to try and make use of it myself defensively. And I'm going to pair my 2 Vortexes next to my Spiders to make sure that they can target the correct thing. So here we can kind of zoom in and see how it attacks. It basically like sends out this electrical beam every 1.3 seconds. It doesn't splash, right? It's not like a Raiden. It doesn't fire multiple beams. It just fires the single one. And its damage is pretty good, right? It one-shots Hounds here. You can see that it fires pretty quick, so gets through the entire Hound pack fast. And because it attacks so quickly, my Vortex manages to grab a level immediately here. As we enter round number 2, we're going to see that intensive training shows up. The other cards I wasn't too interested in, and yeah, Narita also going to go for that intensive. And I thought, well, if we're going to try and make carry Vortex a thing, an early level 3 Vortex seems like it could be rather powerful, especially into, you know, the beefier mid-sized units here with those steel balls. And speaking of beefy, one of them now level 2 with the help of that intensive training my opponent picked up. Marksman Specialist is now available, so I don't expect myself to win here, but maybe this Vortex can work some magic. I didn't really want to level this Vortex up, but I could have to try and keep things even. I just wanted to make one, you know, really big one and see what it could achieve. I go for a Fang on the right side of this tower to just defend. Or rather, I guess I just decide to level up and use my deployments in front of my Spiders here to make sure that we don't get locked onto and to buy enough time for these Vortexes. The game plan here is to pretty quickly go into grid integration, but to do this, I would like to buy level 2 Vortexes to put into the grid, and yeah, I have to have enough money, of course, to be able to achieve that. Right side collapses, left side also not doing too great right now as we get overwhelmed, and round 2 will be going over to Narita, but you know, this is somewhat expected. I leveled the tower, my opponent got a level 3 marksman. Now level 3, or round 3, we see Underground Threat show up, improved firepower control system as well, but that isn't too important here because as you will see, we will be buffing our attack a whole bunch, and since all of those buffs are additive, this bonus 75% or 70% or 65 at this point percent of the improved firepower control system is not going to matter too much in the long run. Instead, I would like to go for a bit of a tempo play, so I go for this Underground Threat in the top right, hoping it'll get myself a tower debuff, and while allowing my units, of course, to farm. First things first, I decided to buy a third Tarantula, and I immediately click high explosive ammo because I noticed that the chaff clearing was getting problematic, and my opponent already has 5 packs of crawlers on this side, so going for the high explosive early doesn't seem like a bad idea. Also pretty close to my opponent, so I might not need to click anything else. I just want to make sure that I can clear the path for my Vortexes so that they can do their job. Tower debuff comes in, and now the Vortexes can really go to work with 2 level 2 steel balls, but that doesn't really matter. This unit has 3600 damage every 1.3 seconds at this point, and keep that in mind for when we start clicking grid integration and, you know, the twin tech. It'll get a lot higher than just this. Round number 4. And here we have unit reinforcements. I wasn't too interested in any of this. I was kind of looking to just sell and to start getting, you know, the Vortex grid, the link going. Narita here goes for Fortress, classic, right? Composition with the hounds and the fortresses. And I think the interesting thing about this game is that it actually showcases, you know, how do the Vortexes perform in a more realistic scenario, because a lot of the games on the test server were these type of Vortex mirrors, and even though it can be fun, it doesn't really showcase how the unit performs against actual comps, right? Comps where the opponent isn't also building the new unit. So yeah, here we go. I sell the Sabertooth, and I buy 3 more level 2 Vortexes, and I immediately go for grid integration. So now you can see that my Vortex went from 3,600 to 6,200 attack, almost. That's a big increase, right? I'm almost doubling my attack here with this grid. How does the grid work? So as long as Vortexes are within 45 meters of one another, they will get linked. You can see here that the range is slightly too big, so this one got excluded. But these ones here are still linked, and you can see their attack did go down, right, from 6,200, now down to 5k. That's still very high for a 100 cost unit. I guess at this point it's 200 with the levels, but still, they just beat fortresses. And not just one of them, 3 of them. And this gets a lot more crazy than just that, because as I mentioned, if you click the twin spawns within the 45 meter range, right? These units don't need to be in a line, even though that is how the visualization of the mechanic works. If something is behind them, much like the Sledgehammer link tech, it will also be included. And so the buff gets almost doubled. Well, it does get doubled, because you will spawn, you know, twice the amount of Vortexes. Round number 5 here, heavy armor gets picked up. That's kind of scary. I did know that one of the fortresses leveled. Thankfully for me, it did already have an item, but you know, these fortresses are starting to get quite big. They're getting close to getting more levels as well. But for now, I really wanted to try and test out, you know, how my Vortexes can do. I felt like first I needed range here. Maybe I could have gotten away with electromagnetic twin, but I really wanted to try and get the range enhancement first, and I add another Vortex here to the grid. So now, level 4 Vortex, with 6 of them in a line, already up to almost 9,000 attack. Still attacks every 1.3 seconds. On the other side, we do have range on the hounds, and I'm still not ranging my tarantulas here because I don't feel I need to. As you can see, right, all the chaff has already died by the point that my spiders are dead, and so they've fulfilled their job. Now though, the fortress is out of control. I don't manage to take them out. It is exceptionally close, right? A lot of them are low hit point, but I just didn't quite trust it on round 6. And so I was thinking to myself, maybe I need to buy something like an Abyss here. And when I buy the Abyss, I maybe can bait out a response from my opponent, stop them from buying more fortresses, and then sell it and perhaps try and fully invest back into the Vortexes to see if, you know, that twin tech can push them over the edge in this matchup. But I felt like I needed something other than Vortexes here to try and stabilize and maybe throw my opponent for, you know, a bit of a loop. Now, yeah, Fortresses, 2 level 2, 1 with a heavy armor, 153,000 hit points on that. And I do decide to go for an Abyss. Now, my positioning here was a little bit awkward, so yeah, you will see me do something that I wouldn't recommend normally, but for positioning purposes, sometimes it's allowed. This crawler, if it is 1 to the right, I would be able to fit an Abyss here, and I really wanted the Abyss to be here, because then it would target the 2 level 2 fortresses. So I'm going to sell the crawler and then buy it back. Not ideal, but, you know, sometimes you just have to do that to fix your positional mistakes. Intensive training is available here. Probably just going to end up leveling one of the Vortexes. I am going to Loan because I wanted to go for Loose Formation. Again, a tech that I've really liked lately. It seems to perform quite well into a lot of these enemy units. Even though my opponent has Mech Rage Hound, Loose Formation will still perform better than no tech would. And I think in some scenarios it can even outperform something like Subterranean Blitz, especially for its cost being 100 lower. Abyss here going to do well. Now, one thing I was a little bit afraid of but didn't deal with is this right side crawler that has been there for a couple of rounds, and it will start gnawing at my tower. And so yeah, this debuff is not gonna be well timed. Even though my opponent only has one marksman as their anti-air, the debuff is certainly not going to help me out. I get stuck on that fortress for a little bit too long, and this tower is going to end up falling as well. So sadly, my Abyss Surprise doesn't, you know, yield a round win, but it does, you know, kind of force my opponent to perhaps react and buy more anti-air units, because it's a bit sketchy to try and rely on that one marksman alone, and surely I will be fixing this right side tower debuff situation. Round 7, we get more unit reinforcements. I wasn't looking for anything specific here, but I don't mind the Fire Badger. I still could go for an oil play. Maybe, you know, that buys me another round to get rid of all of the chaff. There is quite a lot of it, and I can also try and go for maybe a little bit of an aggressive play on the right side here. I was trying to get this tower, but my opponent invests a bit more. They go for the Typhoon, they sell one, and they decide to attack my right side. And I'm just going to buy more Vortexes here. I sold my Abyss, and I'm just going all in with this Vortex line. And so now we're going to be able to see what this really does. So with the line already, I'm up to 11,000 DPS, or 11,000 attack. The DPS right now is comparable to a fully ramped level 1 steel ball. So yeah, it's pretty crazy, right? But this does not yet include the twins. So here they are. Now they get added, and it just bumped up from 11,000 to almost 19,000 attack every 1.3 seconds. And so you can see that this fortress just does not stand a chance. And that one too, that was a heavy armor fortress. That's basically level 3.5 in terms of, you know, just a fortress without items. And it melted. So yeah, in its current state, this tech bar just does some very crazy things. I mean, look at that. I don't think you can kill that much faster, right? Like, even things like Melting Point would need to ramp up, but this is already ramped up. Crazy stuff. So my opponent did get baited. They went for anti-air on the marksman, and so the plan worked out. They didn't buy more fortresses or fortress techs, and yeah, I was kind of surprised about how well this Vortex line was doing. Of course, we're picking up all of the levels that we can, but now I wanted to try and deal with this right side. I get the Javelin to help me out with that, and I wanted to try and get the debuff if possible. My initial idea was to add more Vortexes over here and start pushing in, but then I realized, wait a second, I don't have any anti-air. So even though you see me go for a play here, eventually I backtrack, and I decided that maybe buying some Farseers is the best here, right? It's the most versatile anti-air unit. It does okay into Wasp, but it can also fight back against bigger air units like Raiden or Overlord or Abyss. So yeah, that is going to be the plan here. My opponent buys more fortresses and extends the line to try and defend that right side. Temp range, temp speed, of course, getting clicked, and range as well now on the fortresses. This fortress, 250,000 hit points, right? With the heavy armor. And you can't really fight much tankier than that. It's already at basically level 2 Titan tankiness, right? A level 2 factory would probably be around this level of hit points. So it's a really good test of how far you can push this unit in its current state. One Farseer on the left, one Farseer on the right, Crawler here as well, and with the Javelin, I was hoping that maybe I could get a cheeky tower debuff. Dominion Core Fortress, by the way, got picked up, almost 300,000 hit points. And yeah, let's see how this goes. You can see that the loose formation is doing a pretty good job, right? The Crawlers are getting very near the enemy Hounds, and again, my HE Tarantulas that I'm keeping level 1 because they can already one-shot the Crawlers anyway, do well enough to clear the path. And so now we are getting to blast away at this fortress. We get the debuff, And this Dominion Core Fortress, while it is beefy, with the help of that debuff, once we take it out, the other fortresses will also go down. This Vortex just did almost 200,000 damage in a single round. It's up to almost 600,000 damage, you know, throughout this game. 500,000 just over. Pretty crazy stuff. Now, more unit reinforcements show up this round, and I was worried about my anti-air somewhat, so I'm gonna go for the Overlord here. The other stuff doesn't make too much sense. I could go for maybe like Void Eye with an EMP armor play, but I just wanted to pressure that right side. I have a good spot for that Overlord, and it should immediately be able to attack this enemy fortress. Now the Crawler gets added as well. My Badger is in a bit of a precarious position, but perhaps I can save some of them by having the Crawlers overtake the Badger, and then when the fortress retargets, at least 1 or 2 Badgers will still be alive. Left side, I'm not really doing too much. I'm mostly focusing over here, buying more chaff. And double attack has now been clicked as well. Oil gets used by my opponent. I have sold my Badger, so I won't be able to ignite this myself, which is rather nice. But perhaps it slows down my push. Level 6 Vortex now. A lot of them are level 4 by this stage. Kind of unsurprising because it is a 100 cost unit killing, you know, level giants. So they are getting a lot of experience. And with double attack, double defense enhancement for my opponent, these fortresses are up to 280,000 now on this. Oh, defense enhancement got taken back. Not sure if that will get taken again. Think it will. Oh, I think Narita might have floated some cash there. Not exactly sure. But Fortress still 283,000, but very beefy. Line of fortresses got extended to that right side. I do have the Overlord though, and my opponent only has AA Marksman on the left, so that should do quite well. And again, the chaff clear, not a problem whatsoever, right? Like, we did clear all of the enemy crawlers, and now the line of vortexes is going completely insane, as we will simply be winning the round, or the game on round 9. Yeah. Pretty crazy unit, I'm not gonna lie. In its current state, it definitely has probably too high DPS, I would say. It's kind of okay without the text, but if you just fully commit to this thing, it is rather crazy. I think things like Hacker do pretty well into it. You can't really force the unit if your opponent starts with Sabertooth, because, yeah, Sabertooth just doesn't really care about the low, well, the relatively low damage that it deals early on compared to, you know, what it can get up to, and it's just very hard to get it to level in those scenarios. But if your opponent starts with, like, you know, Hound Steel Ball, or like even things like Sledgehammer Void Eye, it should do pretty well. And yeah, you just kind of gotta commit. Anti-air is a bit of a problem, right? Because, well, I eventually get Farseer here, but it can be difficult to pair it with anti-air. I have tried to go for things like Mustang openers, which aren't too bad with it. So, you know, perhaps especially with the new chaff gear text being added to Mustang, you can go for more Mustang openers with like high explosive, or if cutting rounds gets buffed even more, maybe that becomes a thing at some point. Yeah, I do expect this unit though to get nerfed before it hits live servers, at least with the, like, you know, all-out carry that I'm showcasing here. And so that will probably like open up some different tech bars to also see play. Anyway, if you like this video, please leave a thumbs up. Let me down in the comments below what you think of Vortex. You know, are you surprised about this unit? Is it the first time that you're seeing it in action, or have you already tested it for yourself on the test server? Let me know. If you want to stay up to date with my latest content, please consider subscribing. And if you want to see me play live, check me out on Twitch. With that being said, take care, guys, and see you in the next video. Bye-bye.